Hey folks, it's Lauren from Snowy's here with the Campfire 12V 240V vacuum sealer.
Hit it.
It's powered by both 12V and 240V mains power. It's an awesome way to save space, reduce your waste, and keep your camping food or adventure food fresher for longer. So your vac sealer comes as its main unit. You also have your 12V power cable here. We've got a suction hose, which I'll show you a bit more about that later on. We've got the instruction manual, which is pretty comprehensive. It runs through everything you need to know about the device. And we've got a couple of vac-seal bags here to get you started. So they're in the two sizes, the small one here, and this is the larger bag, which is doubled over. Now it comes in this particular box and it's packaged quite well on the inside. However, there's nothing for you for long-term storage. But what we have tested out is that it fits rather perfectly inside this blacksmith, I'm pretty sure it's a drawer bag or the drawer storage bag, and it's the small size. So that's a great option for you if you need to pop your vac sealer away somewhere neat and tidy. Now the unit measures about 38 centimeters long. It's 15 centimeters deep or wide, and it's about 9 centimeters tall. It also weighs just under 1.5 kilos, so it's quite nice and light. So along the front here, this is where our vac sealer opens up. That's where your bags will insert for sealing and suction. On the sides here, we've got the same button on either side. This is the release button, which you press both of them in conjunction, which will open up the vac sealer. On this side, we've also got our input for if you're choosing to run it off DC power. On the back here, we've just got a couple of hinges. On the base, we've got our little rubber stoppers, and that helps with any sort of vibration or gives the unit a little bit of a stopgap between the surface and allows for these vents to get a good amount of ventilation. The 240V cable is fixed, as you can see, and it's got this these two little pegs here that what it allows you to do is wrap the cable up as required. It's not capable of doing the full cable for full storage, but what it will do is take up a bit of the excess length of the cable itself if you're regularly using it in a space where you don't have much of a way to go until your power point, so that can just keep it all nice and tidy and out of the way. So along the top here, we've got a couple of buttons that control the function of the machine, as well as you know, some of your other basic function buttons on the side here, but I'll show you a bit more about that in a minute. Opening up the inside of the vac sealer now, we can see we've got a couple. These are up here is along, I'll tilt it back a little bit here. So this is our bumper bar that creates a nice firm solid push down on the bag, which will, this is here the heat strip. This is what's going to seal your bag. So this bumper here will make sure that push the bag down, make sure it has a really good seal along that heating element. And these foam rectangular type pads here, this is the vacuum or the suction area. So that's where you're going to want the end of your bag to sit in. We've also got the option here of having a canister setting or a marinate setting. And we've also got a little bag cutter that's tucked away, nested in here as well. I'll show you how to use that a bit later on. So we're going to plug the machine in and we should see it go green straight away. So basically there's no on or off button on the machine. It's just as soon as it's plugged in and has power being supplied, it's just going to be on. So that's not obviously going to be a problem because the machine itself won't operate or function in any way unless we tell it to via this control panel. So I've got a couple of bags prepped here. What I'm going to do is, and a couple of random assortments of things that we've found around the place, nothing too fancy, but we've had these wheat bix in our staff kitchen out the back for the morning crew because they can be quite dry and crusty and potentially a bit soft. I thought they might give us a good indication of how strong the seal is on these bags. So I might chuck an extra one in here. Now we've got a couple of functions here on the top that I showed you earlier. So we've got the option of dry and moist. Now obviously your wheat bix are a dry food, so I'm going to select dry here. The difference between the two is ultimately just how long the machine will seal for. With moist food, obviously you want the seal to be longer because you want it to be an extra solid seal. Now we've got fast and slow. Basically, this will just control the speed of the vacuum sealing itself. So if you have something a bit soft, like say marshmallows or strawberries, for example, you're gonna wanna hit the slow function because they're foods that you don't want crushed by the vacuum. The fast is for things, harder things. Maybe you've got a nice big piece of steak, you know, anything more harder like jerky, which I'll show you a bit long. Anything that's firm, doesn't mind if it gets crushed a little bit, you can stick with fast. So what we're going to do here is select dry and fast, and I'm going to open up the machine. And because this part here, which I mentioned before, is the actual vacuum chamber section, we're going to want to get the end of our bag, the opening of our bag, positioned nicely right in, sort of bang in that vacuum chamber section there. So a couple of things before we actually get to vacuum sealing the bag. You want to make sure you've got about 5 centimeters of room between where your food ends and the edge of the vac-seal bag. That's to make sure you've got enough space on the machine to reach effectively into the vac-seal bag. We also want to make sure that the edge of our bag is not wet or has any food or anything like that at all. If the bag is wet, it can mean the plastic sticks together and the seal won't come through evenly. So just need to make sure that's really clean and really dry and has 5 centimeters of gap before we're putting it in for vac sealing. Alrighty, so we've got that lined up. We're going to shut the vac sealer and use the heels of our hands here to push on either of these corners until we hear a couple of clicks. And that just means that the machine's all sealed up together, and that little rectangular section there is creating a nice airlock for the vacuum to begin. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the vac seal button. Now that's going to suck away at those wheat bits there, and I'm going to let it go a bit further than I probably would if I was doing this for real, just so we can get an idea of how strong the suck power is. Now I'm going to hit cancel, because I just want to demonstrate that if at any stage you feel like you've gone too far with the vacuum sealing, or it's quite enough and you want it to stop, you just hit that cancel button. If you were to want to cancel and seal straight away, you just hit the cancel button and then the seal button immediately, and the light will go red when it seals, which we'll see in a minute. But there is an automatic sealing in here, so if you are happy for the machine to just do its thing and vac seal as hard as it can, we're just going to press it and let it run. Now the machine's getting louder. It's obviously under quite a lot of pressure there, and now we can see that it's sealing because this external light has turned red. So once that light's off, we can hear the vac sound, or you might not have heard it, but a little psh sound, which means the air's released. We're going to press on both of our little release locks down the bottom here, and we should be able to see that we've got a nice clean seal along the top of the bag there. And having a look at the side of these poor little wheat bix, you can see that they've been pretty much flattened there, and they're very hard and rigid. So there's obviously quite a lot of pressure in that seal. So whilst we're talking about power consumption, there will be a difference between what power source you're using. So whilst you're attached to your 240 volt power, the unit will be able to vacuum about 12 to 14 litres per minute. When you are running your vac sealer off 12 volt, that will drop down to 7 to 8 litres per minute. So there is a slight difference in power draw there. The unit itself also will also be drawing 110 watts of power overall. So we've got a sort of a Tetra Pak wet hiking meal here. I'll transfer it over to one of our vac seal bags just so you guys can get an idea of how this will perform with wet food. Now this is probably about as wet or as moist a food that I would be comfortable in vac sealing. Anything that has more of a liquid content than this, I would want to be freezing before you're going to attempt to vac seal. So I've got a fair amount out of there. And we're going to make sure that, yeah, we've got loads of space. So we're going to have a good 5 centimeters clear, and just making sure that the top of the bag, like so, is clear of food and it's dry. So we're going to pop that one. I'll flip it over so you get the nice clear side. I'm going to pop that one in the vac sealer. And I'm going to seal it up shut, clicking down on both sides again. Now what I might do this time is I'm going to hit the moist button, because that means I'm getting an extra strong seal. Being a liquid, we want to make sure that that's not going to fail at all. And I'm also going to try the slow setting this time, and just so I can keep a better eye on it and make sure that there's no liquid being drawn up into the machine itself before it gets to seal. So if I haven't demoed the pulse button yet, so I might do that now. So if I hit the pulse button, it literally is just going to be vacuuming the bag as I touch it, and that allows for a really controlled way of sealing your food content. Now it's getting pretty tight there. You can start to see the moisture itself is being drawn further and further up the bag. Now what I might do is I'm going to cancel this actually, and we're going to open up the machine. Now I'm going to set it again because I just want to show you how it does that automatically if I'm not pulsing and I'm just using the slow method here. Now being aware of that, I am going to have my finger hovering over the cancel button just in case. All right, so I've hit the cancel button because the moisture's gone all the way up to the top here. So this is a good demonstration for me to show you the cancel and then the immediate sealing. So I'm going to release the bag, get a bit of air in, like so. Right, pop it back down, click both sides in, hit the automatic seal. Now that's a lot slower than the Wheat Bix, as you can see. Now that moisture is starting to draw up, so I've hit cancel and I'm going to hit seal again. And that turns the red light on and it seals the bag. So that is how you would vac seal. Now obviously we've done this quite a few times, so the seal itself is not perfect, but you can see how if you were doing something moist or something wet, you do have that fine motor control over how much you're sealing your bag and how much moisture is coming up into your machine. Now the actual difference in the seal, I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up on camera, but in the fast and dry food method, the seal is a little bit narrower than it is on this bag. And I'm not sure if the camera will be able to pick that up too well, but it is slightly a thicker and obviously deeper seal on the wet or the moist setting, I should say. So the next thing I'm going to show you is some beef jerky. It's nice and dry. It's really hard and solid. Now, in the particular instance where you perhaps you're buying a roll of vac-seal bag and you can cut it at different lengths and seal, or you want to just simply not have so much excess over when you are vac-sealing small items like this jerky. So I'm going to give a rough measurement, or sort of lay that a bit flat. Give a rough measurement of around about that sort of 5 centimeter mark here, which is about there, I'd say. So what we're going to do is grab our little bag cutter, and you can see we've got these little indentations on either side, which makes it really comfortable to hold on to. And then we've got our little pointy bit of plastic there. Now with this little pointy bit facing down, we're going to tuck the plastic bag in underneath that little pointy tab there, and just get a bit of tension on the bag like so. And then we're just going to run it straight across and try and keep a nice straight line for the vac chamber itself. So this is pretty much going to work on any vac sealer bag that you have, because there's a nice little hidden razor blade on the inside there, and it's quite sharp. So I'll just pop that one back in its little storage section and line the bag up. Now, I also just want to say I'm always turning the bags over so the clear part is at the front. That's just for you guys' benefit. There's no way that you right or wrong way to put your bag into the machine. So I'm going to lay that up. I've got plenty of room between the food and the vac seal chamber, and I'm going to shut the machine and we'll just let it do its thing with our 2 clicks. But before I do that, I do have a decibel meter loaded on my phone, which will be very loud. It looks like the sound of my voice is equivalent to busy traffic right now, but excuse my smashed phone screen. I am going to put it down next to the machine while it's running. It'll give you an idea of how loud it is. We know this isn't the technical way to do it. It's definitely not going to give you a guaranteed idea, but hopefully it gives you a ballpark, and it's the only way we've got to gauge a rough sound of volume in the store. So the other thing worth mentioning is off camera, I've brushed the top of this panel a few times with my hand and it has set the machine off. So these touch buttons are very sensitive. It's probably just another thing to be mindful of. So we're around 40 dB when I'm not talking. So I'll quieten up and I'll press this button now. Beautiful. So I think the camera would have shown there, we got up to around about high 60s, early 70s in the decibel sound, which if we minus away from our existing decibel volume, it's probably around about 20 to 30 decibels. Now, even though this is dry, I have accidentally left this on the moist setting. Having said that though, you would have seen that it sealed once, released and sealed again. That's just part of that process to make sure that the moist seal is done really well. So I'm going to press these side buttons. I'm going to open it up and our jerky bag is sealed nice and firm. Now this also was on the moist setting, so the actual suction itself won't be as strong as it was on the Weet-Bix, but you can still see it's done a fairly good job there. Now one last thing before we go is the canister hose, which I was showing you about before, now is tied in a bit of a firm knot here, which I will just untangle. Now this hose is for compatible vac chamber jars or canisters that don't come with the machine, so they are available separately, and as far as I'm aware they're a generic sort of vac sealing kind of product. So one end of this hose is going to connect to this little outlet or pipe that we have inside the vac chamber of the vac sealer itself, and we're going to push down and make that nice and firm. Now when you have the other end, that's going to fit on the top of the valve in your vac seal canister or your vacuum canister that you have, and then from there you're just going to hit this button that says canister, and we should be able to hear the machine kick off into suctioning. Now inside of the machine, it does have, just like it does when it's vac sealing a bag, its own sort of pressure sensor I should say, which means that it will stop vacuuming on the canister when that pressure is released. So I'll hit that button again and you'll be able to hear, if I put my finger there, the sound of that vacuuming coming through that hose. Now the other function that we have is the marinate function. Now, I'm personally not too familiar with this, but if you are connecting to a canister and you have some marinade in with your meat or what have you, hitting that button means that you will have the vac sealer sucking all the air out into a certain amount of pressure and then forcing air back in, and then sucking the air out again and forcing it back in, and it will do that process over the course of around about half an hour, and it is essentially an accelerated marination process, allowing the marinade to be like drawn and sucked into the meat and then released again and then sucked into the meat, that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, that's how you use the canister hose function of your machine, which is pretty handy as well. So that's about it for the Campfire 12 volt 240 volt vacuum sealer. You can get this at snowies.com.au at our lowest prices every day. If you found this video helpful, give us a like. If you've got any questions or comments, chuck them below. You can head here to subscribe or here for more helpful videos.